trending, but is it the latest dog whistle? Let's talk about it, y'all. Middle America.
And you ain't black.
I don't know what I said.
The first time ever any...
What are you people?
We're Americans.
We are Americans indeed. My name is Vincent. This is Middle America with Vin and Sawyer. We're not left wing. We're not right wing. We're just right. Shout out to all the Middle America crew. Shout out to everybody in the village. Yada, yada, yada. Don't have a reaction. Well, I think I do have a reaction video. I'm going to be reacting to more Andrew Clavin. Shout out to Massachusetts. This is me hanging out. This is also an Ask Me Anything. So if you guys have any questions or whatever, you can ask me. We'll hang out. We'll discuss life and all that good jazz, etc., etc. So many streams. So many streams so early. Yeah, like I said, guys, I'm really trying to step up the op tempo on the schedule. So I'm going to try to get in front of you guys almost every day here. I'm trying. So that's what we're doing. I disagree. Can I call in? Yes. Hey, my man, Applejack in the house. Like, share, comment, subscribe, all his stuff. If you listen to Middle America, definitely you got to get yourself, you got to get some Applejack in your life. Blood, I posted Christ is King before almost everyone. Yeah, like that's, we're going to be talking about the Christ is King phrase. Really, really, really interesting times we live in for sure, guys. For sure. So, yeah. Doing that, and we're going to be doing an Ask Me Anything. We'll answer to the best of my ability any questions you guys have. Obviously the Bible, whatever, but just in general. You know what I'm saying? Did you watch that vid I sent you of Putin saying Jesus was black? No, I didn't. I did not see that. The Jesus is black thing, I grew up, around the black Israelites and stuff, and there's a passage in Revelation, and they kind of hang out on that passage. If you really pin me down, I think that the scripture talks about Jesus at the resurrection creating one new man, that there's going to be a new humanity. So, yeah. I have a video of a rabbi saying people who believe in Jesus will burn in hell. Yeah, I mean, look, in Israel, I mean, this is just a fact. When Jewish people convert and your family is against it, they'll literally kidnap you, and you end up in this house of some like hardcore, ultra-Orthodox rabbi, and they basically keep you in there until you're reprogrammed out. Look, that's a true story. That happens over there. So, really, really interesting world we're in right now. So it's been really interesting watching the developments. It's also interesting watching the new alliances that are being made. And the new groups that are being made. So it's very, very, very interesting. Very interesting stuff. I'm waiting for that text, Applejack. That's crazy. I mean, I'll definitely show it once it's there. That's pretty crazy. The world is just going to hell. I truly feel the rapture happened in 2012 because ever since then it's just been stupid. Yeah, I mean, look, the war in Chirac really kicked off at 2012. I don't know if you guys remember that, but 2012, man, it was supposed to be over with. I don't know if y'all remember that or not, but 2020 is like the Mayan calendar. There are no years after that. Then you had like a couple Christian fundamentalist groups like saying that it was going to happen and all this craziness, and then nothing happened. This dude had all these poor people out there selling all their property and shit because they were convinced the rapture was going to happen in the next 5 minutes. Yeah, 2012 was pretty crazy. 2012 was pretty crazy. Putin released the oldest iconography of Jesus from the Russian vaults, and it shows Jesus and the Israelites were black. Yeah, I mean, it's some interesting situations that we're in for sure. Okay, so yeah, no, I agree. See, Mech grew up just like me. You grew up just like, it's right around the corner. You don't remember that? Right around the corner? Then you had the traveling evangelist show up to your house and shit and be like, yo, man, you don't want to get left behind, bro. Yeah, boy, I don't know. Mech, did you get raised on Distant Thunder? You ever watch them Rapture movies, them like 80 cheesy Rapture movies where they you gotta get your head chopped off with the guillotine, all that shit? Now I look back, I'm like, Mom, what the hell were you doing making me watch that movie, bro? It was like terrifying. I'm not a Christian. Well, you should be, Rig. To try to blanket Christ as king is an anti-Semitic dog whistle. I might become a born-again savage. You know what, Larry? That is such a crazy born-again savage. I like that. I'm going to steal that. That's hard as fuck. I got raised on all the good John Hagee and the Christian Broadcasting Network. Yes, always hoping that revival we stick to the walls like flies that everybody talks about. Right, and then get slain in the spirit. You know, they touch you, you get overcome and all that. Like, hell yeah, man. We was in the middle of all that shit, bro. Oh, man, that's crazy. Did you know our religious ceremonies were illegal till 1978? What? Holy hell. That's loco, bro. That's really loco, man. Okay, so let's look at it, because Andrew Clavin has more issues with the ADL website has some circumstantial evidence of JFK about to force him to register as foreign agent before he was assassinated. Twitter blowing up with the idea. If I was doing PR, folks gotta course correct. Like I'm just saying this as like like as a consultant, because like I don't want shit to go really, really bad for one group of people. But I don't know, man. Shit's getting a little bit hectic right now. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, man. I'm not gonna lie about it. It's pretty hectic. Listen, Applejack, do me a favor and email that to me. The same email address I used for that rap that we did. I genuinely can't believe that Clavin is the same denomination as me. What denomination is that? Because I haven't seen the clip yet. Somebody sent me the clip. And by the way, guys, hit me up, facebook.com/American Middle. You can hit me in the messenger to come up with ideas as to what we should talk about. I don't know if we're going to do like a nightcap thing on the days that we're not recording. But also, if you're on Twitter and you retweet this, every week we're going to be doing a little drawing thingamajiggy for everybody that retweeted something, and somebody's going to win stuff. All right. So Andrew Clavin, who apparently shares a religion or denomination with my priest Perkinos, he's an Anglican. Yikes. Okay. All right. So we should be getting some good Anglican theology here from the big homie. And we have an Anglican here. So if he says anything reckless, or if I say something reckless about that denomination, we have an expert in the building who will correct your boy immediately. So that's good. I'm just trying to load up one last email because my buddy sent me an email. So here we go. And guys, like I said, this is the current trending topic or whatever, but I'm really, 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 really serious about doing this on a consistent basis. Did you send it to vinatory@gmail.com? Can you check your outbox to see if it actually went through? Okay, so while he's doing that, let's get into the Andrew Klavan video. And let's see what the damages are. Let's see if it's as bad as people are saying it is. We will be the judge of that, dear listener. The clip that I was sent is only 1 minute and 52 seconds long. So it's like, how much damage could have been done in 1 minute and 50 seconds, Really curious to see how Matt Walsh touches the Crisis King Discord. He might put in his walking papers. I doubt it. He stayed completely silent during this entire thing, and Candace is his Christian sister, so he should have went to war for her. So there's also that. That's also not very good PR for the Christian church. Like, hey, if you go out and speak according to your convictions and people get at you, we're not going to protect you. Like, that's crazy to me. That's where we're at right now. Like, you should protect your sister. Like, family should come before everything. And biblically speaking, in the Christian church, we're supposed to be family. So, Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh, Michael Knowles said something about it. He's like, whatever, but there was no defense of her at all. It was sort of like, Ben's my friend, she's my friend, I don't want to get in the middle of two feuding friends, whatever. But the man has to feed his family, so it's easy for us to judge. We don't know his situation. You feel me? Candace Owens is a multimillionaire, and the husband that she married is also like a mega millionaire, and so she has a lot more room to say some reckless shit about people and get herself in trouble than Michael Knowles. So we have to... Yeah, she did. Candace indirectly called them all out with the verse saying you can't serve God and money. She did. But again, we have to pause and say that's convenient. Your husband has a net worth of $108 million and you have a net worth of $5. Okay, so you guys are... Let's just keep this in perspective, okay? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, all right. All right, guys. Although I love the movie, why does network ABC only play the 10 Commandments on Easter weekend? No Jesus stories available? Whoo! Whoo! Man, the world's getting hectic. I know you're going with that, Dwayne. The world's getting hectic right now. Here goes Alex Jones defended Candace. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, she is created, like, you gotta choose a side. And it's pretty crazy. But the craziest thing to me is the flip on this segment of the right, because just for review, remember the term dog whistle became popularized during the Trump administration from his campaigning on to throughout his presidency. Because remember, you guys, it was Trump is a Nazi, the MAGA hat is a new KKK hood, blah, 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 blah. We're going to demonize Trump and everybody that supported him, all those people in the Rust Belt who voted for Obama twice. You guys remember they woke up and decided that they were racist. They took off their USA cap or whatever, put on the MAGA hat, which we know is a KKK hoodie. And every day Trump and his followers were spreading racist shit. And then you'd say, well, holy shit, well, send me the tweet. And the tweet will be something like, it's been 5 days since I missed my wife and I really miss her. And then people would say, don't you see? And you'd say, what are you talking about? And they would say, his wife, okay, wife kind of sounds like white, right? And so that means white power. You're just not hearing the dog whistle, man. But he's really a racist, and there's the proof. That's what the term dog whistle meant, and that's how it was used. It was a way to accuse Trump and his followers of racism, even though you had no proof. So people like the Daily Wire, as well as pretty much everybody else on the right, attacked the concept of dog whistling and, in my view, rightly mocked it. But now, these are the guys, they're employing the literal exact same term tactic that they rightly accused the previous dog whistlers of, which is, you're just trying to say that I'm racist without proving it. So it's crazy to me that the Daily Wire and everybody on the right, or this particular segment of the right, is now using the term dog whistle when they mocked it incessantly for years. Meg said, I literally got so sick of that kind of talk about Trump that I got rid of my TV entirely in 2017. MSNBC drove me out of my mind and damn near out of the left. What do you mean, sis? What you what? Were you troubled? Were you troubled by the constant stream? Well, you must have missed it if you mercifully tapped out in 2017. You missed all of Rachel Maddow's greatest hits, bruh. Racist dog whistles do have an actual history in politics. Richard Nixon officials admitted they were dog whistles to justify racist policy that they can't use anymore. Well, here's one, right? I'd say Margaret Sanger's a racist, right? She was talking about the Hyde Amendment passing, which the Hyde Amendment would basically mean that we would federally have to pay for abortion at the federal level. The Hyde Amendment didn't pass. And when she was interviewed, RGB said, yeah, I was surprised considering it was going to result in removing certain populations that we didn't want around. I mean, she said that. She didn't say, we're going to get rid of niggers and kids with Down syndrome. She didn't say that. But when you say, I thought this abortion, thing was going to pass because, it was going to directly affect populations that we don't want too many of. Pretty sure that's what she said. That I would say, okay, that's a racist dog whistle because she's not specifically talking about black people or whatever. But if you look at the woman and understand her time period and her seats in Laban, you can understand why somebody would interpret that as a dog whistle. So I think Mech puts a good nuance in there. It is valid to a degree, but to me, the standard of proof has to be extremely high. So I love the nuance, and that's why I love our community, because we're dynamic and we're talking about it as it's going on. It's not that dog whistles don't exist, it's that people use the term in an extremely broad fashion and don't know and don't narrate to specific policies or sentiments. This is great. Great. Yep. That definition. Okay, so let's go, guys. Let's go. Here we go. Here's Andrew Clavin. Let's check it out.
Grown. When I did this, by the way, the priest who baptized me said, Christians won't accept you. You'll still be a Jew. And I said, well, I am that.
Christians will not accept you. You'll still be a Jew. Now, I don't know where this guy came from. As far Perk says that this dude is a what do you call it? He's an Anglican. That's the Church of England. N.T. Wright, one of my favorite theologians of all time, was the Anglican Pope for a while. Hey, Tasco and this bitch, loving the consistent uploads. Love you too, buddy. Okay, so I did not grow up with the idea that we don't like Jews as Christians. As a matter of fact, my family almost worshiped Jews. A lot of you guys don't know this. If you're in a premillennial dispensational context, and that would take me all night to explain, we were raised revering Israel and the Jewish people. And that's still true to this day in large segments of evangelicalism. The idea that the normal parlance for Christians is to be anti-Semitic is crazy to me. We're the number one Israel, aside from AIPAC, the evangelical bloc in politics is exclusively pro-Israel to the detriment of Palestinians. Because nobody can be as cruel as a person who has a theological justification for their cruelty. So I didn't grow up that way, but that doesn't invalidate his experience or the experience of other people. Like, I'm just saying my experience wasn't like that. My experience was the opposite. We continue.
That's my race. I'm a Jew. I'm proud of my race. It's a great race. It's done many, many great things, including write the Bible. And, you know.
Yeah. I mean, Paul said, theirs are the promises. They got us the Bible, and it's from them that Christ entered the world. And as such, we ought to bless the Most High for the fact that those people did that for the whole world. I agree.
I am a Jew, but that hasn't happened at all. Christians have welcomed me with open arms, except this Christ the King.
Christianity is about worshiping a Jewish man. Sadakta. I understand.
Anti-Semitic crowd. Except this Christ the King, anti-Semitic crowd.
Okay, so everybody welcomed you except for this Christ the King anti-Semitic crowd. Were you saying that like a year ago? He's talking about when he got baptized. I'm assuming at least he's been a Christian for, let's say, 5 years. I don't know how long Clavin's been a Christian. But what are you talking about here? What are you actually... Let me hear that again. Hold on, what'd you say?
Anti-Semitic crowd.
The anti-Semitic crowd. The Christ is... Okay, so remember, this is right after he was baptized, and the priest said they're not going to accept you, and he's saying, nah, everybody's accepted me. He said, except for this crowd. So if those people were anti-Semitic the entire time of your conversion, why didn't you say something? Why are you waiting till now to say that the Christ is King folks are an anti-Semitic crowd of people? That kind of generalization is really, really crazy to me. Really, really crazy to me. Furthermore, we've been saying Christ is King for 2,000 years, bruh. I remember one of our folks. It was a cool story. This one girl, she had she was having some issues, and we were having a prayer week at church, where every day we were meeting and praying and whatever. Pretty crazy stuff happened. I'm not gonna lie to you. Really cool stuff happened. One of the things that happened was, there was this girl that heard about it. We'd never seen it before. And it was a weird situation. I just felt like the Lord was like, hey man, we had this chair where you could sit if you had a prayer request, right? So if you need prayer about something, we had this chair and you could sit in the middle of a room and then people would pray for you. So this new girl shows up, she sits in the middle of the room, and certain things came to my mind, so I went to her and I spoke in her ear certain things, and she was like, yeah. So me and her start talking, and essentially, long story short, God showed up in the room. She decides, okay, I'm on the team. So, well, we got to baptize her, obviously. So we had to like undo the shower thing, and then we filled up the tub and we dunked her right there that night. Like, from when she showed up to when she was baptized, it was like an hour. Complete life change. Insane. Like, unbelievable life change. So then she goes, well, my sister needs to know about this. So she goes, you guys got to pray for my sister, and we're going to go baptize my sister. And we're like, well, it doesn't work that way. There have been people that have been like looking for Jesus for, decades, blah, blah, blah. But like, yeah, we'll pray for your sister. Well, sure enough, like 2 or 3 months later, we dunked her sister. And her sister, this is such a long story to get to this point. So her sister, name's Chloe. Shout out to Chloe. Our crew, because the way that we were, like, if you were in, especially once you got baptized, like, that was it. Like, we were around each other extended periods of time. Anyway, so Shorty got baptized, and then she had, like, she went to the school for troubled kids, basically. And we all showed up deep to her graduation. It's pretty cool. And when they called her name, she goes to get her diploma. When she gets her diploma, she turns around in front of the entire auditorium and says, Christ is King! So our side, we were like, yeah, blah, 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 blah. Shit went crazy. We had no thought about no anti-Semitism, bruh. She was saying Christ is King because she ended up in that school because certain things happened to her, and she didn't have any direction in life. And then boom, here comes Jesus and gives her an entire outlook and purpose and all the rest of it. And she was completely excited. So she had her moment. You see what I'm saying? Like, she had her moment. She had her moment. She looked around, see all the people in the auditorium, and she's like, "Yo, I'm gonna give it up for the dude that saved my life." So the term "Christ is King" for us was, it became legendary after that. I mean, we'd been saying it, but it was just a legendary moment in our lore, historically speaking. So it's a little bit sad to me that because of this entire political debacle between two or three personalities, a phrase like that is now being bandied about as some horrible, terrible, horrible thing. So, anyway, we continue.
Christ is the King, and one day every knee will bow and recognize it, because he's not just my King, he's King of the universe. But
Philippians chapter 2, at the name of Jesus, every knee will bow and every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, to the glory of God the Father. Now, in that specific passage, the term Kyrios is not king, it's Lord. And that's even worse for folks like Ben Shapiro, because it is probably the Hellenized or the Greek form of the term Yahweh in the Old Testament. So every knee will bow, every tongue will confess that Jesus Christ is Yahweh, to the glory of God the Father. So he's right. Regardless of, this is what our scriptures say, regardless of your opinion on Jesus, everybody one day is going to recognize his rightful place over the divine council, and as such over the universe. We continue.
when you use that phrase to mean that God has abandoned his chosen people, the Jews, through whom he came into this world incarnate, and that he's broken his promises, his covenant with the Jews, you are quoting scripture like Satan does in the Bible. You are quoting scripture to your purposes, and that to me is specifically wicked. You know, when you spit that phrase at Ben Shapiro,
let me try to figure this out. If you say Christ is king, hold on.
and that to me, in scripture, whom he came into this world, incarnate that phrase to mean that God has abandoned his chosen people, the Jews, through whom he came into this world incarnate, and that he's broken his promises, his covenant with the Jews. You are quoting scripture like Satan does in the Bible.
Well, obviously, if the term Christ is king means God breaks his promises to the Jews, then obviously we would disagree with that. But I have never run into a person that has ever said Christ is king with that as their motivation. Furthermore, the problem for the Jewish people in the context of this discussion is the promises of God. The promises are the problem for our Christ rejecting Jewish friends. What do I mean by that? Okay, here we go. Here's Deuteronomy. Remember, Deuteronomy, and you have to understand for the specific kind of denomination that Ben Shapiro belongs to, they do not only limit themselves to the Bible. This is so important to understand. They do not limit themselves only to the Bible. So they have the Talmud, they have their sages, they have what's called the oral Torah, which supersedes the written Torah, etc. So a lot of evangelicals make the mistake. They think everybody is like us, where you just limit yourself to scripture and that's how you're. No, that's not what's happening. Now this man is saying that people who say Christ is king are saying that God is breaking his promise to the Jews. So I mean, let's see, because I mean that is a pretty heavy kind of accusation, don't you think? You're saying something really inflammatory, but that doesn't mean that he's wrong because it's inflammatory and offensive to people. Just because somebody offends you doesn't mean they're wrong. They might be wrong. It's very possible that they're wrong for offending you, but it doesn't necessarily mean that. But anyway, my contention actually is that it is the promises of God that puts it so that our Jewish friends may be in trouble from time to time. And look, I don't know how else to say it, so here's what I'll do. I'm just going to read it, okay? This is directly from the Torah. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28, okay? And you guys can do what you will with that, but this is Deuteronomy. This is Moses, okay? This is Moses, so please miss me with the anti-Semitic stuff, because I don't know how else to interpret this. Okay, now, he's saying that if you say that God has abandoned the Jewish people, then, you're off and you're wrong, and it's anti-Semitic to say that God abandoned the Jewish people because and that God abandoned his promises. Okay, and as I said, I think the promises are the problem. Here we go. This is Deuteronomy chapter 28. This is the book in the timeline of Israel's history right before they enter into the land of promise, the land of milk and honey and all that stuff. Here we go. Starting from verse 58. If you are not careful to observe all the words of this law which are written in this book. By the way, the treatment of the sojourner, the stranger, is one of the commandments, that you have to treat the sojourner with justice. Okay. If you do not follow these laws, he will bring upon you and your descendants extraordinary, severe, and lasting plagues. Terrible and chronic sicknesses. He will afflict you again with all the diseases that you dreaded in Egypt, and they will cling to you. The Lord will also bring upon you every sickness and plague not recorded in this book of the law until you are destroyed. You who are numerous as the stars in the sky will be left few in number because you would not obey the voice of the Lord your God. Just as it pleased the Lord to make you prosper and multiply, so also it will please him to annihilate and destroy you. And you will be uprooted from the land you're entering in to possess. Now, this is written to them. Imagine if somebody posted this without the actual reference. What would they be called? But this is in the Torah. This is Moses. Then the Lord will scatter you among the nations from one end of the earth to the other, and there you will worship other gods, gods of stone and wood, which neither you nor your fathers have known. Among these nations you will find no repose, not even a resting place for the sole of your foot. There the Lord your God will give you a trembling heart, failing eyes, and a despairing soul. I'm going to send you out into the nations, and you will never have repose. You will never have rest. Now these folks are back in their land, but they still don't have any rest. It's hard to have rest when you're trying to maintain an apartheid state, dear listener. So your life will hang in doubt before you, and you will be afraid night and day, never certain of survival. In the morning you will say, if only it were evening. In the evening you will say, if only it were morning, because of the dread in your hearts and of the terrifying sights you will see. The Lord will return you to Egypt in ships by a route that I said you should never go again. There you will sell yourself to your enemies and male and female slaves, end quote. So, that's a promise. It's a promise. You mistreat people, you start worshiping other gods, I'm going to fuck you up. We're going to fuck up your land. And even if you're in the land, you're never going to have peace. You're always going to be watching your back, etc., etc., etc. That's what the text says. So I don't know what this guy's talking about right here. I don't know what religion he's talking about. I don't know what he's saying. But when I say Christ is king, obviously it's going to be controversial to people who do not believe that Christ is king. I repeat, and this doesn't... Ben Shapiro believes that Jesus was a fraud, that Jesus was not who he claimed to be, and that he died on the cross for his own sins. Okay? And the fact of the matter is, there is no way to harmonize that idea with any sort of identity if Jesus truly is the Messiah. All right, we continue.
Quoting scripture to your purposes, and that to me is specifically wicked. You know, when you spit that phrase at Ben Shapiro, my friend Ben Shapiro.
When you spit that phrase, who's spitting that phrase? Christ is king. I promise you, when Chloe was saying that, we weren't spitting at anybody. We were just spiking the football, though. Because if the story's true, and he really overcame death, then hell yeah, I'm going to spike the football in his name every chance I can get. So should you. I mean, spit the phrase at Ben Shapiro. It's not spitting anything. It's giving Christ his rightful due. What in the world?
And you know, I understand this. All of you who love Ben, and I love Ben, and Jordan Peterson, you all want to see them find Jesus because you know what joy and freedom that gives you, and you certainly feel that it alters your relationship with God.
I don't understand how somebody this old can make such a blunder relative to Christianity. What did you just say? What did you just say? Hold on.
Alters your relationship. I really feel that it alters your feel that it. All of you who love Ben, and I love Ben, and Jordan Peterson, you all want to see them find Jesus because you know what joy and freedom that gives you, and you certainly feel that it alters your relationship with God.
No. I want Ben to become a Christian first and foremost because the lamb that was slain deserves the reward for his suffering. The scripture says, out of the anguish of his soul, it's Isaiah 53, it's talking about Christ being crucified and what was going on with him psychologically. It says, out of the anguish of his soul, he shall see his seed, he shall prolong his days, and the will of the Lord shall prosper in his hand. And by his knowledge shall the righteous one, my servant, make many to be accounted righteous, because he will bear their iniquities. Okay, so the very number one reason I want people to convert to Christianity is because Jesus deserves the loyalty of every human being on this planet. That's what it means to say that Christ is king. All of what we're looking for in a utopia, healthcare, all that shit, can be lived out in a practical way if we look at the Sermon on the Mount not as a suggestion for being nice to people in our personal lives, but as an entire constitution of the new world. If you look at the Sermon on the Mount for economics, you have an extremely liberal, generous economic ideology, but everybody would be working, you see. The vast majority of slavery in human history has not been with the transatlantic slave trade, but with debt slavery, which is still true to this day, which is why you got people going crazy about student loan forgiveness, people going crazy. So the point is, Christianity is not, oh, here's some therapeutic for you, Ben. Here's a therapeutic. I feel that Jesus is a better therapeutic than whatever. No, this is not about what we feel. This is something really, really practical. If Jesus is who he says he was, then he deserves the loyalty of everyone, particularly every Jew. That's it. But look, if that offends you, I don't like offending people, okay? But that is the Christian posture. That's always been our posture. I don't know what this guy's talking about here. Unbelievable.
But when I think about this, to be honest with you, and I know some people will disagree with this, but life is not a game show where you guess the name of God and you get to go to heaven. Honk, yes, the name is Jesus. I look at Ben's life and I think if Ben were to embrace Jesus Christ, it would cause devastation to his family, to the people who love him, to the people who listen to him, to his position in the world. I just have this feeling that God has put this guy where he wants him to do what he wants him to do. And as you know, I feel that, the Jews were not abandoned by God.
If Jesus is who he says he was, and Mr. Clavin, you are claiming that, and the Jews deny that, then how does that work? Jesus didn't leave that open. He did not leave like a third option open. He said, you're with me or you're against me. That's what Jesus said. He said, you're either with me or against me, and whoever doesn't gather with me scatters. So what are you talking about? Furthermore, this would cause devastation in his family and his standing in the world. Huh? What? When was that ever a concern for the Christian church? Maybe this guy, what's his face? What's this guy's name again? Andrew whatever. Maybe Andrew Clavin could have went back into a DeLorean in the first century and tell those early Christian martyrs they didn't really need to die like that. It's about what you feel or whatever. What in the world? Okay, all right. So it would cause devastation to his family if he were to convert. Really? Okay, so what does Jesus say about that? Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth, but a sword. A sword? How so, Jesus? For I have come to set a man against his father, a daughter against his mother, a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. A person's enemies will be those of his own household. Whoever loves the father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. You're not worthy to name the name Christ if you don't love him more than your parents and your family and all the rest of it. Which, if this guy didn't pull off a resurrection, we would rightly call him a cult leader and a dangerous person who should be avoided. But I just want to compare this. Ben can't recognize the lordship of Christ because what would happen to him in his family life? I don't know. What's happened to the Muslim kid who's right now deciding between his neck and his Jesus right now? What are you talking about? This is so offensive to me, you have no idea. Holy hell. Unbelievable. You went on national TV and said this shit? Hold on, let me rewind this, guys. I'm sorry. You guys know me. There's one thing I can't stand as a coward.
I just have this fear that would cause devastation. I think if Ben were to embrace Jesus Christ, it would cause devastation to his family, to the people who love him, to the people who listen to him, to his position in the world.
Who cares? And Jesus said, if that's part of your calculation, you are not worthy of me. And I'm not saying this to Ben. I'm saying it to you. Because you are now compromising the truth so that you can remain in good standing with your friend who currently is an enemy of the cross, according to the scripture. Whoa. Whoa. Whoever does not take up his cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it. Whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. When you run into Jesus, nothing else matters. When you truly have an encounter with this dude, nothing else matters. I told you the story about them girls that we baptized. They went head up against all their family and friends. They started posting stuff about Christ, his lordship, being a king, blah, blah, blah. And all their secular friends went ginsu on them. They weren't even preaching to their friends. They were just putting up on their Facebook page what was going on in their life. It costs something to follow this man. It costs something to follow this man. And the first generation of Christians were all Jews in Ben Shapiro's situation. Their families turned against them. Their families excommunicated them from the synagogue. The families called the Roman government to go and confiscate them and take all their shit. Those first Christians told the line for us, and they were almost exclusively Jewish at the beginning. And their persecutors were also almost exclusively Jewish at the beginning. What is going on here? You're supposed to be willing to go to die on a Roman cross, hang on there for 3 days and follow Jesus. That's what he said, but Ben Shapiro can't make the people in his family upset? Huh? What about his standing in the world? When has this ever been a Christian virtue to worry about your standing in the world? That doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever.
I just have this. But when I think about this, to be honest with you, and I know some people will disagree with this, but life is not a game show where you guess the name of God and you get to go to heaven. Honk, yes, the name is Jesus. I look at Ben's life and I think if Ben were to embrace Jesus Christ, it would cause devastation to his family, to the people who love him, to the people who listen to him, to his position in the world. I just have this feeling that God has put this guy where he wants him to do what he wants him to do. And as you know, I feel that, the Jews were not abandoned by God.
I don't think the Jews were abandoned by God. I do believe, though, that if Jesus truly is the Messiah and they reject him, they have abandoned God. That's the issue. You're trying to make this sound like the Bible is not clear on this. The Bible is pretty clear on this topic. Here we go. This is 1 John. I write to you not because you do not know the truth, but because you know it, and because there is no lie in the truth. Verse 22. Who is the liar but he who denies that Jesus is the Christ? Christos is the Greek form of Mashiach or Messiah. So it says, who is the liar but he who denies that Jesus is the Messiah? This is the Antichrist, he who denies the Father and the Son. No one who denies the Son has the Father. So you're out here trying to imply that Ben Shapiro has some sort of relationship with God while he's rejecting his Son. What does that look like, dear listener? Now, you guys know me. I'm a run-of-the-mill dad. Every man loves their children. Every man loves their wife. There's nothing peculiar about the way that I love my family than any other guy. But you guys know. You guys know how I am. Imagine. We're all hanging out one day and Perk says, you're a pretty awesome guy, but your son is a lying imposter. And I'm going to tell everybody in my family that your son is a lying imposter, but me and you are cool. How does that work? Does that make sense to you? This text is saying that anybody who denies the messiahship of Jesus is a liar and an antichrist. That's what it says. What do you want me to do about it? What do you want me to do about it? That's what it says. So, this is crazy to me, bro. You cannot have the Father, Yahweh, and reject his Son. Now, look, if Jesus is an imposter and he just made the whole shit up, then whatever. Cool. But if he's actually the guy, we got a problem. No, God is not cool with Ben Shapiro, of all people, rejecting Christ. No. What are you talking about? Here we go. Let's. Oh, man. Let it be known, verse 10, to all of you and all the people of Israel, that by the name of Jesus Christ of Nazareth, whom you crucified. This is Peter talking to Jewish people and explaining to them how he just healed this dude. So he's saying, you guys crucified him. That's Peter, Jewish Peter, saying that to a Jewish audience. The name of Jesus of Nazareth, whom you crucified, but whom God raised from the dead. By him this man is standing before you well. This Jesus is a stone that was rejected by you, the builders. That again is the Jewish people. I'm sorry. But a Gentile didn't say this to them. It was a Jewish person that said this to them. Jesus is a stone that was rejected by you, which became the cornerstone, meaning the entire building rests on this man. The Muslims have this term, Beit al-Islam wa al-Beit al-Nar. Basically, the House of Islam and the House of War. And if you're not in the House of Islam, then by default, you're in the House of War. That's kind of the idea with the building metaphor. The building metaphor is that the people of God are a temple, like a collective temple. But the foundation stone that the weight of the temple rests on is Jesus. And he's saying if you reject that, then your entire temple is going to collapse on you, and you have no temple without Christ. That's what he's saying. There is salvation in no one else. There is no other name among men by which we must be saved. Okay, so it is impossible from a New Testament perspective to, quote, work for God while you're denying his son. Here's the last passage. This is John chapter 5. This is Jesus in confrontation with the Jewish scribes who would later end up crucifying. Here you go. You search the scriptures because you think that in them you have eternal life. And it is they that bear witness about me. He's saying your scriptures, you're holding on to the scriptures while rejecting me is crazy because the entire scripture is about me. Jesus made this stuff very simple. The only way a person can justify this is if you rise from the dead. If you don't rise from the dead and you're making all these claims, I don't got nothing to say to you. These are the scriptures that bear witness about me, yet you refuse to come to me that you may have life. I do not receive glory from people, but I know you, and I know that you do not have the love of God within you. Who's Jesus talking to? I have come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. If another comes in his own name, you will receive him. I.e. the Talmud, where they're taking the word of their sages, like black people were cursed with black skin out of the ark. Yes, that's in a Talmudic tractate. You're taking that and putting it over the Bible. How can you believe when we receive glory from one another and do not seek the glory that comes from the only God? Do not think I will accuse you to the Father. There is one who accuses you, Moses, on whom you set your hope. For if you believed Moses, you would believe me, because he wrote about me. But if you do not believe his writings, how will you believe my words? End quote. Jesus is saying the only people that would have truly followed Moses, because everybody, if I was in a time machine, blah, 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 I'd have followed Moses. Jesus is saying, if you reject me, you would not have followed Moses. Because Moses' entire mission was prepare you for me. So anybody who claims any sort of allegiance or covenant or standing or whatever with God outside of Christ is a liar. That's what the Bible says. Now you can say that John, who is Jewish, and Peter, who is Jewish, and Paul, who is Jewish, and Jeremiah and Isaiah, you can say all these people are anti-Semites if you want. But we cannot compromise on what the scripture says about Jesus, so that we can make people happy. Salvation is supposed to cost you something. Not that you go to earn it, because you can't, but it ought to cost you something. There ought to be some real pain in your life that you otherwise would not have had were it not for Jesus. There ought to be some discomfort in your life that you wouldn't have were it not for Jesus. That's what it means to be a Christian. That's what it means to take up your cross and follow him. So if you really love Ben Shapiro or you really believe your Bible, then something's got to give here. Either your Bible has to give, or you repent and explain to everybody that you were just completely off. It is impossible to have a right relationship with God while actively rejecting Jesus Christ. Can't be done. Cannot be done. All right, so that's my take. I'm going to set my timer just like I did yesterday. I'm going to set a 10-minute clock, and we'll open it up for an Ask Me Anything. And if you guys have questions, I will do my best to answer them directly. No question is out of bounds. And then if the clock goes out and we're done, we're done. It's all good. Can somebody tell me what the highest resolution they have on this is yet? What's the highest resolution you can get to on the thing? Once you say it's anti-Semitic to believe the Christian Bible, you've wandered pretty far in the woods. Yeah, I mean, this is the same thing that happened during the Passion of the Christ, where you had these folks coming and saying it was anti-Semitic for Mel Gibson to record what the Bible says happened over there. So you're essentially saying that our New Testament is an anti-Semitic document. Oh shit, that's right. The video. Yeah, I got a video for us to study as well, since people want to talk about being offended about people's religions and stuff. There is some pretty funky stuff in let me check out this video. Okay, so this is a video sent to me by Applejack. Applejack, maybe set the context for us so we know what we're looking at while we're looking at this video, huh? That's not. Do I gotta download it? Okay, I'll download it. Okay, while I'm downloading this, bro, let's give people some context to see what we're looking at before we go to look at it. By the way, if you just showed up, what's up? What's up? What's up? The clock is going down. Right now, Perk, I'm just doing I'm watching a video. It's about a 2.5 hour video that has like a brief introduction to kind of the big picture meta ideas. So I haven't started any specific. Blue is anti-Semitic now. Brooke in this bitch, what's up? Helen, okay, we're at 1440. Okay. Yeah, so Hegel, I'm doing an overview of him, and then we're gonna get into the books. Do you have any to recommend? I can't type that fast, Vinny. It's 10 minutes. Okay, Boggy says, who are the Amalekites that they seek to destroy? Good question. So, in the Old Testament, there are conquest passages, right? We know this, like, kill everybody, man, woman, child, blah, blah, blah. We actually did a Bible study on this, like 3 or 4 years ago. That terminology is terminology like we would say LeBron James murdered the Cavaliers by himself. And in that Bible study, we actually showed other pagan kings who used the exact same language. We took out everybody, man, women, child, beast, blah, 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 when in reality, they only killed 500 people in the battle. When you win a decisive battle in the ancient Near East, that's the language that gets employed. Now, relative to the Amalekites and the other people that were on the harem, or the kill list, those people were pagans who violated the law of God, mistreated each other, yada, yada, yada. And instead of sending a flood to punish them, God sent the Israelites to punish them. But one of the reasons why we know that is not a race-based genocide is because I just read to you guys Deuteronomy 28. And in Deuteronomy 28, God says, the same shit I did to Egypt when they were fucking with you, I'm going to do to you guys if you fuck with people. So the point is, God sent them to clear out and punish the Amalekites, not because he's a racist and he wants Jewish people to have land, but because that was how he judged humanity. And we know that because as soon as the Israelites deviated, he sent the Babylonians and the Assyrians, etc., to do to them what they did to the Amalekites. This is not a race-based thing. This is God saying, here are my standards. This is how we live. Furthermore, even if you were on the kill list, so for example, the Hittites were on the kill list, okay? Like, you got to annihilate everybody. We actually have a convert into following Yahweh from that tribe. And this guy, his name was Uriah. He's very, very famous story. I'm not going to get into the details, but the point is, if you were on the kill list, it did not, mean a complete and total destruction of those people. It meant to win a decisive victory in battle. 2, people, even in those communities, even if they were not war fighting or whatever, had the opportunity to get into a relationship with God, and then they got full citizenship just like everybody else, and God went to war on behalf of this person. So that's there. So those are the Amalekites. Now, One of the things that's really fascinating is the current, we heard Rabbi Barkley say this, we've heard the general in the Israeli Defense Force talk about them being Amalekites because they're trying to use that to say, we're going to kill every man, woman, and child there, and that's their justification for why they're doing what they're doing. All right. Now, here we go. This is I think, well, let's just look at it.
Billion, so many, 2 billion Christians, which are idol worshippers, between Chinese, Hindus, Buddhists, and Christian, at least 6.5 billion people are idol worshippers that according to the Torah do not have the right to live. Idol worshipper Goy, it's death penalty. Not only Jews, even a Goy who bow down to an idol, who believe in
Goy is non-Jew or Gentile. Goyim in Hebrew means nations. The term Goy, a person could argue, is a dog whistle because the term Goyim literally means nations, but the way in which Goy has been used by these folks has been derogatory in the past. That's just a fact. So if we're going to say that Christ is King is a dog whistle, then here we go.
penalty. Not only Jews, even a Goy who bow down to an idol, who believe in JC, deserve death penalty.
Even if a Goy, they bow down to JC, they deserve the death penalty. That doesn't offend me, because he's right. If Jesus is not who he claimed to be, Jesus claimed to be God. He claimed to be the creator in flesh. If he's not who he claimed to be, and we're following him like that, the Old Testament absolutely says to execute you. That's Deuteronomy chapter 18. Let's look at Deuteronomy chapter 18, actually, because that's what this is so fascinating. Here's Deuteronomy 18, okay? Now, watch this. These guys, this is incredible. Here we go. Check this out, guys. No, I know that's not the whole video. I paused it. The nations you will dispossess. Listen to those who practice sorcery and divination. But as for you, the Lord your God has not permitted you to do so. The Lord your God will raise up for you a prophet like me from among you, your fellow Israelites. You must listen to him. So here we go. We've got in the passage that's talking about prophets and all the rest of this stuff. You have a command that there's a specific prophet that's coming, and you have to listen to him. For this is what you asked the Lord your God at Horeb on the day of the assembly when you said, "Let us not hear the voice of the Lord our God, or see this great fire anymore, or we will die." The Lord said to me, "What they say is good. I will raise up for them a prophet," that's Jesus, "like you from among their fellow Israelites, and I put my words in his mouth. He will tell them everything I have commanded him. I myself," watch this, "I myself will call to account anyone who does not listen to my words that the prophet speaks in my name. But a prophet who presumes to speak in my name anything I have not commanded, or a prophet who speaks in the name of other gods, is to be put to death." So this is fascinating because this guy is right. If Jesus wasn't telling the truth about who he was, then he does deserve to die according to the Torah. But you know what is fascinating? In that passage that this guy was referring to, there is a prophecy specifically about Jesus that says if you do not listen to him, Yahweh himself will call you to account. So I agree with him, but the passage proves way more than he wanted it to. Let me look at this video again.
Billion, so many, 2 billion Christians, which are idol worshippers, between Chinese, Hindus, Buddhists, and Christian, at least 6.5 billion people are idol worshippers that according to the Torah do not have the right to live. Idol worshipper Goy, it's death penalty. Not only Jews, even a goy who bow down to an idol, who believe in JC, deserve death penalty.
Yeah. Sadie, passage that says that Yahweh destroyed pagan nations because they wore polyester. I'm not going to limit you to Deuteronomy. You can have the entire Old Testament. I see your 10 and raise you 20. All right, let me see. Let me edit this countdown here. I'll give you guys another 10 minutes. Bonus time. Bonus time, you losers. Okay, so we already addressed that. He's right. If Jesus is lying about who he was, then he deserved to die, and so do we, from a biblical perspective. But if Jesus is who he says he was, and he is that prophet in Deuteronomy 18, then God is going to personally deal with everybody, particularly the Jew first, who rejects Christ. That's what the text says. The text says it both. It says them both. Who is Candace Chronicles? No. I was saying the Candace Chronicles is us covering this situation. That's what the Candace Chronicles is. Okay, so you sent that to me in Messenger because there's another video. All right, let's check it out. Applejack in this bit. Okay, I'm going to post this one too. I don't know what this video is saying, guys, so don't be mad at me if he says something crazy. All right, here we go. Just come over, you loser. Hold on, guys. Hold on, guys. All right. All right, let's see if you guys... There is no passage that says God will destroy a nation for wearing polyester, but it is in 22, 9 through 22 that you're not supposed to wear mixed fabrics. Who's the audience that that's directed to, Sadie? Is that directed to all the nations of the world, or is that directed specifically to the nation of Israel for that specific time period? Is that a universal law that God holds all the nations accountable to, or was that a temporal law that was given to the Israelites so that they could live in distinction from their Gentile neighbors? How do you read it? Oh, look, there's a download button. Geez, in. Here we go. While there's another video that's coming up soon. But I wanted to give you guys a little bit of a biblical principle, and you can take it or leave it, right? Here's one of the passages that Sadie was referring to that gets brought up a lot. They're talking about shellfish and stuff. But notice, since you are to regard them as unclean, you must not eat their meat. You must regard their carcasses as unclean. Okay? So he's saying, for you guys in my direct audience, this is something you guys cannot do. But there are other laws where God holds the entire world accountable, regardless of whether or not you're a Jew. Okay? So that's why those distinctions get made. Here, I'll give you guys an example. I'll give you guys an example of God holding people accountable to a universal law, because I think it's very, very important for the purposes of our discussion. and guys, here you go. So check this out. You must not have sexual relationship with your father's sister. She's your father's close relative. Okay? That's incest. All right? Now remember, you remember the previous passage where you're talking about meat? He said you should regard them as unclean, which means they were not inherently unclean, but they need to be regarded as such. Now look at this. Here we're talking about incest. You must not have sexual relationship with your mother's sister. She's your mother's close relative. You must not dishonor your father's brother by approaching his wife to have sexual relations with her. She's your aunt. You must not have sexual relations with your daughter-in-law, blah, 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 blah. Right? It goes all the way down. And look what it says. You must not give any of your children to be sacrificed to Molech, for you must not profane the name of the Lord your God. You must not lie with man as with a woman. It is an abomination. You must not lie carnally with any animal, thus defiling yourself. Now look, do not defile yourselves by any of these practices, for by all these things the nations I am driving out before you have defiled themselves. Even the land has become defiled. I am punishing it for its sin, and the land will vomit out its inhabitants. But you are to keep my statutes, and you must not commit any of these abominations, neither your native born or the foreigner who lives among you. Okay? So the laws relative to shellfish and all those things were Israel specific, and God never held the other nations accountable to that law. Then there are other laws that are universal that are not Israel specific, that God shows up to a non-Jew and says, I don't care if you had a Bible, because I wrote that in your heart. You should have known better than to rape your daughter, Shmuley, or whatever his name is, the butt plug guy. Okay? That's why, Shmuley, all of us are like grossed out by you and your weird relationship with your daughter, you sick bastard. Okay, so that's what the passage says. That's what the Bible says. The Bible made a clear distinction between laws that were Israel-specific and temporary and laws that were for the entire world that God held everybody accountable for. Just seems hypocritical to point the finger at the whole world when no one isn't following their own law. It's just something that word to me. Well, again, they are following the law because that law was a temporary law and it was not a universal law. And God never held a non-Jew accountable to following that law. So there's no hypocrisy. I just don't think that you understood that distinction. And that's okay because none of us are omniscient. There's a video that Homeboy sent me. Let me check it out.
Have you ever wondered how we got to this point where one of the biggest lobbying groups in America can openly brag that they are representing a foreign country? This is from AIPAC's website, but somehow they don't have to register under the FARA Act as someone acting on behalf of a foreign actor. They literally brag about how many millions they spent and about how 98% of their buying of our politicians was successful this election cycle. Did you know that they were actually this close to having to register as a foreign agent before a certain thing happened? Here, I'll show you, and I'll show you where you can find all these primary sources too. So if you go to this URL right here, israellobby.org/AZCDOJ, it's a history of when AIPAC almost had to register as a foreign agent. And back then, they were known as the American Zionist Council. Right there, the American Zionist Council. Well, it turns out that President John F. Kennedy was about to force them to register under FARA. And this is a history of all of the original documents that pertain to the legal case. And when you click on any of these links, it'll take you to original archived sources of the actual documents from the actual testimonies that you can read. Even cool little snippets like this that say federal lawyers are near a decision on whether to require the AZC to register as an agent of the Israeli government. And back in June and July of 1963, the federal government was nearing a decision requiring the American Zionist Council registering as an agent of the Israeli government. Americans of whatever faith believe firmly that America is their country and America alone. The Zionist lawyer, Mr. Lenvin, advised that public registration would be injurious to the American Zionist Council. You might notice that the Honorable Donald Rumsfeld was involved, and as 1963 went on, it all heated up. And by October of 1963, they were saying things like forms are enclosed for the use of the American Zionist Council in registering under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. But then what happened in November of 1963?
Holy shit!
1963 went on, it all heated up. And by October of 1963, they were saying things like forms are enclosed for the use of the American Zionist Council in registering under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. But then what happened in November of 1963? Under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. But then they're saying things like forms are enclosed for the use of the American Zionist Council in registering under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. But then what happened in November of 1963?
Okay, that thing was dated October 11th. He got assassinated 22 November.
There's a cover-up that's about to happen here.
The president who was spearheading the whole thing just suddenly wasn't there anymore. And to be clear, I would never infer that Israel had anything to do with that whole thing. I'm just saying it was really convenient timing that it happened to turn out that way. And then in December of 1963, we get this document. As you know, our client is not prepared to register as an agent of foreign principal or to concede that it is subject to the registration requirement. December 11th, 1963. And to this day, the single most influential big money group in Democratic electoral politics is not registered as a foreign actor. Although the U.S. Justice Department clearly states that FARA requires the registration of anyone that represents the interests of the foreign principal before any agency or official of the U.S. government. All the rest of that also applies. That's just the most obvious statement. Because if they were registered under FARA, they would have to disclose where all the money's coming from. And they don't want to. So they just don't. And that's how we wind up with screens like this. And with AIPAC openly bragging on the internet about how they pay to get candidates to win, despite their policies being clearly unpopular with regular people in America. And that's why it's so important that we stop China from subverting our democracy by controlling what we see on our social media apps. You feel me?
That last part is interesting because that sounds like some sort of an allusion to TikTok. But the Zionists are actively trying to shut down TikTok. This guy's like, I would never say that the Israelis had anything to do with the JFK assassination. It's just convenient that, I mean, it was almost 30 days. It was like 41 days later because Vin doesn't know how to do math. Yeah, just 41 days, right? It was like October 11th was that document. Then he got assassinated on November 22nd. I don't know, man. I really that's fascinating. Here's my thing, like, I'm not mad at the Israelis for anything that they do because survival is the most basic human instinct. And regardless of what we all think, I know what it's like to have a national or like an episode of history where your people were, whatever. Like, so as a black person, learning about slavery and all that shit, psychologically carrying around that burden and that understanding, I can the Holocaust, as far as the way that it's framed, is almost designed to keep all of us in some sort of perpetual trauma, to the point where people who've never read anything from any of these people have this understanding of what a Nazi is and all the rest of it. Somehow these people have been able... My point is, if you're walking around with that as a narrative about your people, I can understand this sort of Machiavellian, any means necessary, we're never going to let that happen again type of sentiment. But so I'm not mad at the Israelis for doing things that promote their own interests. My problem is, why are we enabling them? What has America gained from being allied with Israel other than the GWAT, the Global War on Terror? Because bin Laden located a lot of his motivation for doing that because of our relationship to Israel. So we give Israel billions of dollars that they pump back into a lobbying machine to get more money from politicians who continue to send money to Israel. Holy hell. That's probably one of the most succinct explications of why I still watch TYT. Because Cenk, for all of his flaws, is one of the only people that's keeping this idea current about lobbying and money in politics and etc. Everybody's complained about it at one time or another, but Cenk has been really pushing that. And if you look at the way, I mean, it's a money laundering operation almost. This kind of came up with that Sam Altman guy in the whole Ukraine situation. I don't know if you guys remember that. But I'm going to read this again because I think it's important. It's an important breakdown. We give Israel billions of dollars that they then pump back into the lobbying machine to get more money from politicians who continue to send money to Israel. So you've got this kind of like cyclical scheme. And I mean, hats off to them. It's been extremely successful. Wow. All right. So then you got this situation. These guys are supposed to register as foreign actors. Y'all remember what happened to Ilhan? You remember what happened to Ilhan when she had the audacity to talk about Jewish lobbying and all that shit? She got censured on the floor of the U.S. Senate. She had to put out an apology tweet, and nobody in the squad stood up for her. Surprise, surprise. When did America just become just the United States? I can say Holocaust is a name created by an Israeli to mean mass murder of Jews, which is why people act as if only the Jews died there. Kind of like how anti-Semitic only... Yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about propaganda and shaping the world, that's one of the biggest... Look, people have no idea how impactful and life-changing and reality-altering language is. It's massively important. And they're very, very good. Like, all of us know October 7th. Like, they're very, very good at getting out ahead. And they unabashedly, I mean, Barclay said it, man. Like, Jewish suffering is just different. It's just different than everybody else. I'm not mad at them for promoting their own agenda. You can't be mad at that. I think we should learn from it. You can't be mad at it. But what you can do is say, okay, that's your guys' agenda. That's cool. We're not mad about it. But here's our agenda, though. Here's our agenda. All right. What do you guys think? Should we run it back? All right. I'll run it back one more time. We'll run it back one more time. 10 minutes, dear listener. 10 minutes. We'll run it back one more time. God. Yeah, like Palestinians aren't Semites. I know. When Putin said over 20 million Russians were killed by the Nazis, my jaw dropped. I really didn't have that mental image of that time period. Yeah, I mean, if you think about that time period, the way the story is told, it's like there's only one group of people, man, that faced any sort of suffering or persecution. It's crazy. It's crazy. But I mean, well done. Like we got a saying in the hood, game recognized game. Like I recognize the game, man. Y'all good psychological operators. I'm not mad at them. I'm just mad at our people. Like, what are y'all doing? I'm not going to say they're hostile actors, but they definitely, they're definitely not America first, right? Over 11 million Russians were killed by... Yeah, but was that like in war? Or was that like systematic like what we saw in the Holocaust? Like, I know the Russian people paid the heaviest price for sure, but weren't they all doing jihad? Weren't they fighting? Right, but the way the Jews were killed though was they got herded into these camps and gassed the entire day. I mean, that I don't know. Did that happen to Russians? I'm not sure. If 11 million Russians died in combat, like, it's terrible, but that's combat. That doesn't seem like the same thing to me as what happened to folks in Auschwitz. Jesus. They lost 19 million civvies? Holy shit. I did not know that. Wait, they lost more civvies than they did their fighting force? So 9 million in the military, 19 million? So they doubled the kill count of civilians? What were they doing? The Soviet Union lost around 27 million people during the war, included 8.7 million in 9... See, that was the exact same thing that... Look at that. That's crazy. That's so crazy because Mech and Applejack had the same... That's crazy. Look, here's Applejack's, right? 27 million and then 8.7, 19 million split. And then like a minute later, here's Mech. 27 million, 19 million split. That's crazy. Yeah, I mean, okay, 19 million dead civvies. Yeah, I didn't know that. I knew that the Germans paid the heaviest price, but I thought that was just straight warfare. Wow. Yeah, I mean, as I said, I tip my hat to them. You can't be mad at people for advancing their own agenda. I just wish... And you know, the thing that sucks is that it took this kind of atrocity for these people to finally get called to account. And that's crazy to me. Like, we gotta learn what we need to learn from this situation. Hundreds of villages were completely wiped out. Jesus. Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying, man. These Russians never get a break, bro. They never get a break. It was one of the things that really pissed me off during the entire Russiagate situation, because at the end of the day, this might be old school, but for me, it's America, man. Like, it's America. I wasn't born here. I came here. I love this country. These are my people. For all their warts, man, these are my people. I'm gonna live and die in America. I love my country, bro. I'm not mad at the Israelis for promoting their own agenda, but we need to have some sort of rebirth in patriotism about America first and all the rest of it. And it doesn't have to be racist. Like, I talk, you guys know our family, but, every once in a while I'll say, listen, this is the circle, okay? Outside them doors, we love everybody, but this is the circle. Right? So I love every nation on the planet, but America is my circle, bro. These are my folks. So I want my country, when we make decisions, that our citizenship gets prioritized above any and everybody else. That's what I want. I don't think that is a crazy ask. I think we should be primarily concerned on the health, well-being, prosperity of American citizens. If the folks over there in AIPAC and all that want a piece of the pie, come over here and expatriate and become an American and join the project. But if you want to stay over there, that's cool. I'm just not going to send you billions of dollars to go fuck with those people. See what I'm saying? Delightful to everyone is his native soil, and it's also delightful to dwell among one's own people. And look, there is a bad, negative, racist, nationalist way to interpret everything. For me, my people are the people of this country, man. These are the people that my primary loyalties are to. And I don't believe anybody should have a significant effect on our political apparatus if they cannot say that with full conviction. Racism is baked into America. My bloodline goes back to before this land was America, and I say F this country. I get it. I don't think racism is baked into America. I think racism is baked into human nature. And this country that I love has a terrible racist history, but that's because they're human beings in need of a savior. So I get it and I understand, but again, these are my people. And if you love somebody, you love them unconditionally. I love this nation unconditionally, and I love the people in it, man. That doesn't mean I hate anybody else. Doesn't mean I hate Israelis. Doesn't mean any of that shit. It's just I want to make sure that Mech is good. I want to make sure that Tina's good. It's important to me that Tina's good before any Israeli. I'm not gonna lie to you. We're talking about U.S. dollars. I want 500 U.S. dollars to go to Tina, to Mech, to American Autopsy. I'd rather 95% of that money go to our folks. And then if we have some left over, help everybody else. I'm good with that. Love my country, dislike who runs it. Correct. Same, exactly, Tina. I chose to become an American, right? And that's the same thing with us. Like, I was not born here. You know what I'm saying? So I made an active decision. Like, these are my folks. You see what I'm saying? And so, like I said, I don't have any issue with them folks advancing their own agenda, but we need to advance our agenda. And the agenda has got to be how we prioritize our people. I don't think people realize the Russian casualties of WW2 because we're taught about Hitler's invasion of Russia because of the Cold War. That is so accurate. Right again. I think that's one of the consequences of the Cold War, on top of propaganda from certain groups to make sure that they exploit that tragedy as best they can. My grandfather sitting in restaurants in South Carolina in my hometown being burned down for the fight for civil rights means if I give up on this country, both my parents are veterans. I buried my father with a flag draped over his coffin in Quantico last year. That's exactly right. That's right. If we give up on the country as black people, that's not good for us. Because we had people that went before us that paid heavy prices. I'm a more of a Malcolm guy myself in that stream of thought, obviously, than Martin. But it's true. Like, if we quit on this country, then our forefathers suffered and died for no fucking reason. And I think they died for a reason. Because we can be the freest, most lucrative set of black people on the face of the earth if we can get together and learn from these people. I keep saying it over and over again. You see Ben Glebe supposedly on the far left and Dave Rubin supposedly on the far right. You see how both of them are reading from the same script when it comes to this altercation? You see how quickly Mr. Clavin and the rest of those folks at the Daily Wire just completely jettisoned all of their previous perspective for the last 4 years. They completely flipped on that so that they can make sure to rally around these folks. You can be mad about it if you want. I admire it. I admire it. Whether you're right or wrong, I am not going to show my hand to our enemies that me and you have a problem. I'm not doing that. If I got beef with somebody in my circle and my family, I'm never going to call them out in public, bro. Never. We handle the shit inside. But when we go out there, I'm never going to project that I'm ever going to throw another black person under the bus. Everybody wanted me to do it when Kanye did that. I said, hell no, I'm standing with bro. That don't mean I agree with everything he says, but there's a reason that those folks stand by each other the way that they do. They're 2% of the population. They're 2% of the population, and they've had a history of people fucking with them. So they know if we don't stick together, it's over with. By a significant margin, we already are living better than most black people all over the place in the world. The reason we even have a chance at prosperity is the fight that we've carried on for our place. Correct. And I'm sorry, but I'm a big believer that my people, we know how to get rich. Was it one generation after slavery, we already had Black Wall Street? You guys should have militarized before you guys started building all them houses. My folks were able to become powerful multimillionaires one generation after slavery, right? So that's the blood that's in my veins, and that's one of the things that motivates my entrepreneurial spirit. Because we're trying to build a Black Wall Street over here. But I promise you it's not going to be that way. It's not going to end the way that it did last time. I promise you that. I'm white. I can't comment on this. Man, you can comment whatever you want. I don't care if white people comment on shit. It's all good. You're an American, right? Comment on that. Here goes American Autopsy. Black Wall Street, where most of the regular people were poor. Well, we didn't get a chance to develop an actual economy before before the white folks showed up, right? So, look, man, you can find a negative reaction to anything if you want to have one, or you can find something positive out of anything. It all depends. It's way harder to make a good life than it was in the 80s. We came up in the 90s. I think there are more opportunities for entrepreneurship in this day and age than ever was. But as we know, you need a certain level of capital and credit before you can do anything really, really, really significant. I guess a boot on my neck is okay as long as it's a black man's boot. I don't know what you're talking about. If you're operating from the theory that people who generate wealth by necessity are bad people and automatically have their foot on your neck because they accumulated wealth, then me and you just don't agree. I don't agree with that. It sounds to me like a very disempowered way to look at the world. And me as a black man, I can't afford any sort of disempowering mindsets. I only embrace mindsets that empower me and my folks. There were a whole wave of communities just like Tulsa that faced a similar fate in the time period. Even some sank under lakes. See Lake Lanier. That's correct. Absolutely correct. Yeah, Daryl, I think if you approach your life and your future with that mindset, then you're going to fulfill that prophecy. Right? At the end of the day, you're young, you're in America. You can find, if you sit and really think the shit through, you can find a way to game plan yourself into financial independence. When I first started this channel, I was doing about 3 or 4 jobs, at the same time. So you have to, it's about channeling your energy. See what I'm saying? I don't care about people being rich. I just don't want to be a collectivist outside of Christ. That's a good call. That's a good call. I'm not sure, though, that our collectivism only relates to Christ. I mean, obviously you have familial collectivism and you celebrate the 4th of July every year, I'm assuming, which would be national collectivism. What I would say is that our collectivism in Christ is ultimate, right? And these other collectives are penultimate. They're important, but they're not the main thing. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're stuck because you're in school. I think what you can do is you got to start game planning and figure out what you want to do in life, what gives you the most passion. I would be listening to hours of music a day anyway if we were not doing this channel. I would be analyzing literature anyway if I wasn't doing this channel. So it's like there's ways to monetize your interest if you work hard enough at it and you got a thick skin. The YouTube game, I can tell you, is a brutal sport. It's a blood sport for sure, and pretty much everybody, like we talk about this all the time. The people that we started out with, I'm talking about like competitors or whatever. There's like 2 or 3 of them left. It's a grueling, unforgiving industry. But if you can stay with it and push, you can do something significant. But yeah, it's definitely difficult for sure. Nothing but prayers has been giving me proof, and I'm gonna be honest, I've been slacking spiritually. I need to get my act together. Man, me too, bro. Me too. The problem is I wanted to do everything, and yeah, I used to do YouTube. Never again. Yeah. Never. Yeah, yeah, man. Like it's a. What's up, JVell? It's a really rude awakening. The YouTube sport, man. It's a really. You got to have a certain kind of mindset, and I lucked out because I got sorry, and so we have, we have the ability to do a lot of things. I think my clock ran out. All right, you guys. All right, hit 22 if you want me to restart the clock one more time. I want to be a collectivist. I owe my entire existence to both my family and nation. I can no more go through life apart from those than I can go through life apart from being a man. Yeah, that's correct. And it's beautiful. That's why all them like Europeans and shit, and they're like, oh, these are our ancestors and blah, blah, blah. No black people allowed in the club. You got people all angry and shit. Come on! Like, that's their heritage. They're in the middle of Scandinavia, man. Like, come on, dude. Like, the scripture says every tribe, tongue, and nation is going to be before the throne worshiping Christ, right? So that tells me that not that there will still be racial and national distinctions in the new world, but not distinctions in the sense of like we're divided from each other, but distinctions in the sense that our way of praising Jesus is going to be recognized as different. So like there are going to be Africans there, going to be Asians there, and everybody's going to do it differently. And so we maintain our unique identity as collective people while simultaneously being part of the family of the new world. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. One of these, a Star 2, whatever, people are like, oh, they're racist, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't even have a problem with like miscegenation, like people that have a problem with race mixing. I think that Fuentes guy has a problem with that. And the reason it doesn't really bug me is because God bless my mother, may Allah forgive her, but I mean, we'd have these conversations. She didn't want me to bring in anybody who was too dark, and she didn't want me to bring in a white girl. No mega dark people and no white people. No white girls, my mom. So it's like, I don't know, man. Like, we're all consequences of how we grew up. Now, me personally, by the time she gave me that message, it was already too late. You feel me? By the time I got that message, it was too late. But what if, like, she had, like, was preaching that when I was 3 and 4 years old or whatever? Then obviously that's going to affect who I'm attracted to and all the rest of it. Come on, guys. Ooh, I love this. I agree with that. Grace perfects nature. It does not destroy nature. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. If Christians were forbidden from contributing meaningfully to the nations where they live, nobody would have been commanded to give under Caesar. Whoo! Whoo! Whoo, hot fire. Ian Kirby in this bitch. My man. I think what we all need to do is focus on the crap going on in this country together To me, I'm seeing racism be less and less of a threat when I see everything going on in this country around us. Man, come on, dude. The biggest threat we have is the division that these people keep throwing at us. And the race thing is it's like the low-hanging fruit. Like, get over it, everybody. It's human nature. Okay? Everybody has a prejudice or an ism or something else that we need God to fix in us. Jeez. And maybe, Daryl, as we come together and fry those fish together, we realize that, hey, maybe these folks aren't that bad. That's what happened with, forgot dude's name, Black Panther dude. And he found some way to work with the skinheads. Because he said, you know what, we don't have to like each other, but we do have overlapping agendas. Let's work together and get these people to stop harassing us. Then we can go back to hating each other, beating each other up. And white dude was like, all right, we'll do that shit. So both of these groups started working together. And wouldn't you know it, because of their co-belligerency, a lot of them dudes are like, yo, I can't rock this Confederate shit no more. I can't do this skinhead shit no more. I went side by side with these people, and the cops treated us exactly the same way. So imagine that. Imagine two groups of Americans who were marginalized and were taught to hate each other and see each other as the enemy. Wouldn't you know it, when they band together to work toward a common overlapping goal against the government who was oppressing them, wouldn't you know it, they turn around and see the humanity and the beauty in one another. I think Big Nose Daryl, who's a pretty young, he just turned 18, I think there's a lot of wisdom in what he just said. Mr. Autopsy, Fred Hampton could have demanded all he wanted, but they did not stop until they started working with him. My man, you see the negative in everything. Oh, black people accumulated wealth. Oh, their boot was on my neck. Oh, you must be miserable. I don't want to live in your world, man. You see the negative in everything, bro. Good night. And look, I understand that. I don't know your circumstances. It's not right for me or anybody else to judge you because I don't know you and I don't know your circumstances. But subhanAllah, man, you complain about everything. You can't be happy that way. My thing, I just want to be happy, man. You know what I'm saying? All right. I'm going to hit this clock one last time. I think we got some... Any other questions? Look at it, Alexandra Valerio. Hey, why don't you go outside and find a girl and talk to her? I think, Mr. Valero, you would be surprised at the responses you get from... You don't have to be scared of women. Now, I understand that you're in a pornified culture, so you probably don't know how to even relate to females in any way that would get you the goals that you're trying to get to. But I promise you got to get off your computer and actually go talk to real girls, man. Because I promise you there's somebody out there for you. And, you know, I'm not going to say that statements like that don't offend me, because, Alexander, if you were anywhere in my vicinity, I'd slap the shit out of you. I would. But since you're safely miles away from me, wherever you are, we don't even have to go there, right? Because nothing's going to happen to you. We're in a virtual environment. But I do think that you'd have a lot more opportunities to be with women if you could just get off the computer. If you could zip up your pants and get off your computer and talk to females, I promise you, they'll respond in a good way. I promise you. Let me see here. Did you send it back in Messenger? Because my phone currently is a camera. So, did you send me that other link in FB Messenger, Applejack? Sent a video an hour. Yeah. Send whatever you sent me back in that chat, Applejack. Por favor. Por favor. Racism works for the machine. If poor whites realize they have more in common with the black community than with the 1%, shit would hit the fan. Poor white people don't realize they're being pissed on. Yeah, and it seems to me that that's one of the things that happened in 2016 was that Obama promised them a way out, and they gave him full-hearted support. And at the end of the second Obama administration, they were not doing well. And so they desperately voted for Trump, and then you know what happened. They got called deplorables and racist and horrible and all the rest of it. Sorry in this bitch. Oh yeah. Sorry's been a little bit under the weather, guys. So if you could pray for that, that'd be great, inshallah. I may be a kid, but I hope my words are seen as valuable to this conversation. Rise of the X-Men. I did not see your comments. Let me see. Christ died for each of us, put aside hate and vitriol. We came to understand that we're family created by God. Yep. All good stuff. There you go. Boom. Everybody say hello to Rise of the X-Men. He's young, but he's wise beyond his years. I'm a poor white who realizes that the problem is having the black community see that. They think we're all racist and privileged. Radical leftist. Why can't you work with somebody that thinks you're a racist, though? Like, that wouldn't stop me. That wouldn't stop me from working with anybody if I thought that they were racist. I've been noticing a lot of younger fans join recently. That's cool. Yeah, Ian Kirby. For show. Let me look at this other thing. Okay, Applejack got me another one. Oh, that's a good question. May I ask how you feel about the flag and its allegiance? Yeah, Dwayne, how does that work for you? And I'm assuming you went to like regular school as a kid or whatever. Like, did you have to pledge allegiance to the flag? What'd you think of that? Did I look at the Alpha Dom thing on TikTok? Was that the thing that Hell showed me with that lady? Where the crazy husband left her in a car or some shit? My generation honestly has me worried. Yeah, man, that's every generation, though. The fact of the matter is, you're around, Ian's around, Delaney's around. You guys, I'm not worried about your generation at all. People like you around, you guys are going to figure it out. You guys are going to figure it out. Okay, Sadie, message me that specific thing I need to look over. There's a status here. Hold on, let me pull this. Let's see what Applejack is doing here. Aha. Here's he sent something to Rabbi Barkley. Oh God. I'm sure he'll respond. His lying gaslighting ass. Alright, here we go. U.S. official accuses IDF. Jesus. This is the Jerusalem Post. Of sexually abusing Palestinian women. A U.S. State Department official claimed that Israel systematically sexually abuses Palestinian women. 24 March 2024. IDF Brigadier General Amir Avivi met with the holder of the Israel-Palestine portfolio of the U.S. State Department who accused Israel of systemically sexually abusing Palestinian women. The general explained in an interview on 103 FM. Recounting his meeting, he explained, "It was a meeting that shook me. We sat there, talked about the situation, and suddenly she accused Israel of systematically sexually abusing Palestinian women. This is absolutely disconnected from reality, but without hesitation, she said, the UN presented evidence to the Israeli government. I told her, does it make sense that this phenomenon would exist and the media would never have reported on it? I wanted there to be greater awareness, but what is really happening in the U.S. State Department. About what is really happening in the U.S. State Department. In the end, I left there with the feeling that they simply don't want to talk to us and pass on any information." This is the IDF Brigadier General who said that. So, do we have? Is there any definitive evidence that that's happening? Let me try to get to that hyperlink. Where was that? Where was that original? Because there was a hyperlink on that thing when it said sexually abusing Palestinian women. Do you have the original source for that one? As an indigenous child sent to public schools, I was bombarded with the usual propaganda our schools teach the children. That flag represents the invasions to the indigenous, but I do respect the idea. I see. Oh my God, dude, don't start noticing. You'll never be able to stop. Noticing what? We got to talk about that, because relative to sexual assault, all we've heard about is the Hamas and all the rest of it. I do not believe that the Israeli POWs were assaulted to the degree that the Israelis are saying. And the reason I don't believe that is because I've listened to the testimonies of people who were held captive, and they said that they were treated well. The fact of the matter is, in Islamic theology, you can do both and be a good Muslim. You can violate women, it's ghanima, spoils of war. That's completely halal in Islam. It's completely allowable. Muhammad also said, treat your prisoners of war as guests in your home. So, after the Battle of Badr, they had a bunch of POWs, and all the POWs got treated very well. They got treated so well that a lot of them converted to Islam, blah, 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 blah. That's all Muslim history, so take that with a grain of salt. Sadie says, hi, Dwayne. I don't know why she's telling us to tell you that, because aren't you in the room still? Vin, I let the live stream the other day. What's the update on the Candace Owens situation? Well, she left or she got fired because the facts don't care about your feelings. Free speech people could not countenance her dragging Rabbi Barkley and exposing certain ideologies that certain groups have, I guess. Say it that way. As long as Netanyahu is running Israel, I don't trust anything about Israel. That's the other thing, Joe. Like, this dude is a war criminal. He's an absolute sadist, this guy. He's the worst. So, like, I don't understand, like, what the fuck is going on. Vin, may I ask a question? Yes, you can ask a question. The time is off, but hell, we'll do another one. All right. Vin, may I ask a question? When I get home from school, I usually sit with my mom while my dad is at work and talk about my day. At school, I get sick of the cliques in my classmates. Okay? I need these people, one for free speech. Yeah. I get sick of the cliques in my classmates dividing themselves at school. Yep. Okay, so what's the question? Most of the right is against free speeches, as the left is. Free speech is to protect the speech you don't like. I agree, Boggy. I'm not going to lie to you guys. When I did a little series on cancel culture, and they were like, no, that happens on the right too. And I was like, man, get out of here. Stop it. No, that's y'all. Now, I would always say that the right-wingers started cancel culture, because I remember Marilyn Manson and all that shit, and it was the right-wing Christian people that were protesting and shutting them down, not letting them play shows or whatever. So my thought process was, yeah, the right-wing invented cancel culture, but the lefties perfected it, and the right-wing doesn't do that anymore. But the fact of the matter is, the right-wing absolutely has never changed. It's only speech we agree with that they want to be free. So that was a blind spot. I missed it, but it really took something as extreme as this whole Daily Wire debacle for me to really like see it. You know what I'm saying? Ooh, hard Hard facts. Anybody running a violent colonial project will be exactly like Netanyahu. A person not like him would be disassembling the ethno-state on principle. Correct. And there's other things that you have to do to your conscience in order to maintain that ethno-state. All right, so hold on. Okay, so my question is, how do I keep from getting stressed when it bothers me at school? Okay, so these clicky people, they've got clicks and it becomes divisive. How do you handle that? Well, there's a couple things. First thing is, in order for people to have unity, there has to be something that they're rallying around, right? That's why in old school warfare you had standard bearers, right? So we've got this flag, and the flag has an icon of something that is our representative of our people. So what would happen in the ancient world? You're at war, blah blah blah. The fight's going on because a lot of this is basically hand-to-hand combat with swords and shit, right? You might end up in a place like 40, 50 clicks away from your teammates or whatever. You look up and you see that standard. You know where to go, and you know that your guys are still in the fight. If you look up and that standard is gone, you're in trouble. So when you're at war, the standard, right, became the rallying point. Human beings can never have unity on principle as like this esoteric concept of unity. We have to be unified around something. And that's the reason you have sports teams and you have people arguing and they'll say things like we and blah, 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 because they're associating themselves with something that they all can come around on, right? And so when you look at the division that's happening in your school, what's happening is you have these little cliques and they all have different standards, right? Different rallying points. And so that's where those divisions come in. So all of the rest of my life, I am going to be constantly trying to figure out the synthesis between unity and diversity, right? Like we're on the one hand, like I'm an individual. I should be able to have my own thoughts, my own autonomy, blah, 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 blah. And that is true to a degree. But I'm also part of a collective. I'm a part of numerous collectives. My family is one. My nation is one. My species is one. My faith is one, etc., etc. My favorite sports teams are one. All these are things that we rally around. So in your school, the division is happening. You got to figure out what are the rallying points of these groups in order to bring them together. Because at some level, there's going to be some sort of common thread with those folks. So that's what I would say. I would say when you encounter division and things like that, the first thing you want to analyze is what is the rallying point, right? There are some people, I'm not going to say it. Let's say I won't say that. But that's what I would say. Find what the rallying point is, and then figure out the connective tissue between the variegated groups and their rallying points, and then you have a shot. You have a shot. That's what I think. How do people in America unify to fix an issue when they're too blinded by the issues to focus? Well, I'm not sure. I'm not certain that we are as divided as we think we are. I'm not certain that social media isn't all pulling the wool over our eyes, right? Like, pretty much everybody in this little channel agrees that what's happening in Israel is horrible. But we're a little small space on the internet. I don't really know what the sentiment is out there when I touch the grass relative to this situation. So that's one of the things that really makes unity a tricky thing in the age of social media. Because now, like back in the day, if you worked with your coworker and your coworker was a Republican or a Democrat, You didn't hate them. You didn't attach any moral ideology to their political perspective. It was like, this is what they believe, that's what I believe. Okay, it's kind of like if you see Breaking Points with Crystal and Sagar, the way they are with each other, that's basically how it was back in the 90s. There wasn't all of this fracturing and demonization of people that disagreed with us and all the rest of it. And the other thing is, one of the reasons why you didn't treat people who had a different political persuasion than you was because you had to be with everybody. There was the places of congregation, none of them were virtual. They were all in terra firma, in the physical world. And so you developed very quickly a tolerance for different points of view, because otherwise you would not be able to work, you wouldn't be able to play, you wouldn't be able to do anything. Well, now we have virtual spaces where I can congregate with everybody who believes exactly the packages of beliefs that I do. You've got now this hyper parochialism almost, where like, and that's one of the, that like, to me, like, this is one of the biggest blind spots of my trans friends. You're spending, 70% of your conscious day online in your forums, so everybody around you is trans and believes in everything you believe in. And so when you sit there and imbibe that for 6 months, you really truly begin to think that that's the default position of the standard person outside. Then when you get outside, it's like, what the hell is going on? I've seen so many young people, the world is flooded with trans people, trans hate, blah, 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 blah. It's like, no, it's, you're a terminally online person and everybody agreed with you. And then you stepped outside and ran into somebody who didn't agree with you. And now you're losing your mind. So I think achieving unity is going to be an extremely arduous task for us. Because there's one sense in which, if you really, really, really break it down, a lot of us are much closer to each other than we think we are. But at the same time, we now have these, people call it the echo chamber. I think it's worse than an echo chamber. But so my point is, that's going to be very difficult to do. It's going to be very, very difficult to do. What's up, Kai? I've lost several real-life friends over the past few years as they got obsessed with political online nonsense and started yelling at me in the phone like it's Twitter. Yeah, that's the other thing, too, is like we're now like... but and again, that's what happens, right? Like, we look at people and it's like, you're a right winger, okay? And what that means is there are a set of orthodoxies that you have to hold to. And if you don't hold to it, then now we're going to fracture. That's what you're seeing happening right now with this whole Candace and Tucker right-wing conservative versus the Zionist conservatism, the civil war that you're seeing happening right now with these folks. That's why I'm saying, like, achieving American unity is going to be really, really... Because think about, the left can't stay together. Look at the left on the internet. That second tier, Breaking Points, TYT, Jimmy Dore. Look at the left. So you got these online people, and Jimmy got excised from the left because he didn't go along with Russiagate. I don't know what's going on with Jimmy right now, but, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, even our own political parties are so, divided. It's going to be a tough task for sure. There's no option to be brown. It's like you can't be in between. Society has made the... I had no idea people outside of MSNBC believe things like that, much less accuse people of it. Yeah, man. Yeah, and look, like, everybody got radicalized during COVID. Like, there was this Canada report, and you guys will be surprised, but the most radicalized group, according to this Canadian report, were male to female trans kids. Were radicalized online in 2020. So, shit's crazy. Christine Whitfield. I don't understand how anyone could expect someone to agree with every point of one side collectively. There's some on right and left I agree with. Right. Well, Chris, that's because, like, what you're talking about is basic observable human nature. I don't even agree with me 3 years ago. Right? Like, so, like, How do you have it where you have hundreds of thousands of people and they like hold to the exact same orthodoxy on like five or six? The only way to get that to work like that is through religious means. And a lot of people have been talking, Anna just called the left wing a cult and all the rest of it. And a lot of people using that hyperbolically, but I'm not sure if it's hyperbolic. I'm not sure if what we're looking at isn't an actual secular religion / philosophy. I'm not particularly sure, but the way that I'm just gonna say the left. I mean, we're seeing it right now on the right with this fracture with the Zionism thing, but the way that the left was going about it was not very good, optically speaking. That's the other thing too. Like in the '90s, like you never expected everybody to completely agree with you. Like there was a lot of sarcasm in the '90s, a lot of yeah right, a lot of whatever, a lot of people making fun of each other, but it never really got to the point where I don't know. It was just different. It's incredibly funny watching people get mad at Anna for having what passed as totally normal Democratic leftist POV 20 minutes ago. Yeah. I remember when the Bergerfeld decision was happening and the evangelicals were like, oh God, now you're going to have women in bathrooms. You're going to have this. You're going to have that. And we were like, that's a slippery slope fallacy, man. Shut up. And then here come the hyper leftists. Wrong. I'm going to change it. Listen, man. I saw one of these Planet Fitness things and the guy wasn't even trying. He wasn't even trying. He's out there chilling out in the ladies' bathroom. This dude is shaving in the ladies' bathroom. Allahu Akbar. Like, you're shaving in the women's bathroom. Like, you're not even trying. See, that's my problem. Like, my view on this stuff is I'll admit, really weird and inconsistent. I mean, here's my perspective on it, honestly. I think that trans women have been using women's bathroom for time immemorial. But I think what happened was the people that did that did their damnedest to try to pass as feminine. And I think what happened is we all kind of like, question mark, and then we let it go. But now what we have is grown-ass men, 5 o'clock shadows, not even wearing skirts, no voice alterations, nothing. I'm a woman, and you go in there, and you're shaving, and you're doing all this other whatever. Like, I'm not going to say that you had, negative predatory motives or whatever. I just think on a societal level, when you talk about the social contract and unwritten rules, calling attention to this bathroom thing worked in a counterproductive way, I think. Sent a different account of can't type right now, listen and get somebody at work, CNN. Did you send that to me in the messenger? Jesus. Here we go. Let me read this here. Jesus. Josh Paul Sr. Alright, we're going to have to watch this video, y'all. We're going to have to watch this video. Let me see. Twitter and converter. Man, this guy Applejack is coming with the heat, bruh. Alright, let me see here. Copy this link address. We're going to watch another video, guys, unfortunately. Or fortunately, depending on how you look at things. So that's coming up. Video time. What is the chance of having 3 kids all trans? That is mathematically impossible, but common in LA. Holy hell. Holy hell. The left loves censorship. It's upsetting. Yeah, but God is gracious. It's not the left that's trying to shut down TikTok because they have a Israel problem, right? That's the right. The right is championing the shutdown of TikTok because the kids are almost exclusively pro-Palestine and anti-genocide. I look at that as a major imposition on free speech, for sure. Let's see here. Where is this video at? Where'd you go? You're not the right video. All right, hold on. But and the big thing, guys, is you guys know why this is important, right? Because speech control is thought control. Speech control is thought control. Here we go. Here's another one.
We have to condemn the atrocities that happen every day to Palestinians in the West Bank. You mentioned sexual violence. I was part of the human rights vetting process for arms going to Israel, and a charity called Defense of Children International Palestine drew our attention at the State Department to the sexual assault, actually the rape, of a 13-year-old boy that occurred in an Israeli prison in the Mosque in Jerusalem. We examined these allegations. We believed they were credible. We put them to the government of Israel. And you know what happened the next day? The IDF went into the DCIP offices and removed all their computers and declared them a terrorist entity. I think it is vital that atrocities not happen to anyone, not...
So this outlet that is designed to protect the sexual integrity of children in this conflict reported on a 13-year-old Palestinian boy being raped by these IDF terrorists. And their response is to declare these people terrorists. Rabbi Shmuley, Rabbi butt plug, I'm going to have disgusting illicit sexual discussions and sell sexual products with my daughter. Totally not horrible vibes at all. If you defend yourself when people like that attack you, you're an anti-Semite. If you say that Palestinian children dying is an equivalent tragedy to Jewish kids dying, you're an anti-Semite. Now these people who are reporting on the violation of this boy created in the image and likeness of God, who should be crowned with glory and honor, according to your Torah. This kid gets raped. And instead of finding the individual who did that and sending him to a Christless eternity, you instead call these people terrorists. There are news stories going back years about pedos successfully being granted asylum in Israel.
Sexual atrocity, not sexual violations, not any kind of gross violation of human rights. We are looking at a situation where there is so much dehumanification, where people are not seen for the value that they have. We have to condemn.
People are dehumanized and they're not seeing with the value that they have. Well, my secular friend, I don't know if this guy's a secularist, but I got some secular friends in this room. Where did this value come from? Did you notice that when I introduced this story, I said this is an 8-year-old boy who was created in the image of God, crowned with glory and honor? Secularism cannot transfer any value to that child, because there's no such thing as inherent human value in secularism. Unfortunately, there are religions that sanctify racism. And I'm sorry, but the Talmud is full of racist sentiments toward non-Jews, toward women, toward black people. And there are strains of Judaism that are absolutely, by default, inherently a racist, dehumanizing ideology. Because they think that they are a different kind of human being than everybody else. That was clear in Rabbi Barkley's discussion. I'm going to hear this again because I just can't believe it. So this is a group of people who are tracking the sexual violations of children during warfare. Okay.
The atrocities that happen every day to Palestinians in the West Bank. You mentioned sexual violence. I was part of the human rights vetting process for arms going to Israel, and a charity called Defense of Children International Palestine drew our attention at the State Department to the sexual assault, actually the rape, of a 13-year-old boy that occurred in an Israeli prison in the Mosque in Jerusalem. We examined these allegations. We believe they were credible. We put them to the government of Israel. And you know what happened the next day? The IDF went into the DCIP offices and removed all their computers and declared them a terrorist entity. I think it is vital that atrocities not happen to anyone, not sexual violations, not any kind of gross violation of human rights. We are looking at a situation where there is so much dehumanification, where people are not seen for the value that they have.
These people, I mean, the mask is off, man. The mask is off. I mean, like I said, I think it's good that the shit is getting exposed and people are going, who the fuck are you people? I think that's great, but I think it's horrible that it took this much death and destruction for this shit to happen. But, you know, kudos to them for y'all had a really good run with this shit. I'm not going to lie to you. You guys had a good run. Brother Minister Farrakhan used to get flack. Yep, Louis Farrakhan's caught flack years for calling out the anti-blackness in the Talmud. Yep. That's another one that white folks were trying to get me to repudiate. So, you better close your mouth. I am never going to publicly repudiate Brother Minister Farrakhan. I don't agree with everything he says. I'm obviously not a black Muslim. Jesus Christ is king, not Elijah Muhammad or whatever. That foolishness that they believe in. But as far as a dude who stood up to white folks on behalf of our people, man, forget it. It's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen. I don't think that guy is secular. He's probably an Anglican. Yeah, because again, this guy's talking about the inherent value that human beings have, and you cannot establish inherent human value with secularism. It's impossible. The fact that they're putting children in prisons like that is disgusting. I'm going to cut out this particular portion and just leave it as a standalone. I got a giant jihad because, 40 beheaded babies. Systematic rape happening on the side of Hamas, blah, 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 blah. And as far as the beheaded babies thing go, we know that's a lie. Although I do have a picture of a beheaded Palestinian child. Anytime war happens, sexual assault is going to happen. It's one of the 10 million reasons you need to avoid war. But why did we only hear about it on one side? And the other thing is, as I've said, there are TikTok videos that I'm not going to show of IDF soldiers prancing around in the homes of these people that they just murdered and then going into their drawer and playing with their panties and all the rest of it. These are some of the worst people on the planet that the world has ever seen. The scripture says that God will the land will vomit you out. You can be so wicked that the land itself is like, man, get these people the fuck out of here. These people out here raping little boys because they don't believe that all human beings are equal. I'm allowed to play Dragon Ball Z on my PlayStation. Good. Good. I'd play with you, man, if I wasn't working. I knew the Hamas assault stuff was crap when the group repudiated the claim. Groups using mass rapes as a tool of terror proudly proclaim that they've done it. Yeah, and as I said, that is not part of... You can be a good Muslim and sexually assault your female captives. As I said, you can also be a good Muslim and treat your captives, male, female, or otherwise, better than you would treat a house guest. And when these people come back, both of those stories are told. I got music going. I'm fixing to jump back on my games. I love it, man. I love it, bro. Have fun with us, hang out, and then go off and play video games because you're a kid. Be a kid. Enjoy your childhood. Don't try to grow up too fast. There'll be enough time for that, my man. There'll be enough time for that. You know, I think that I think all human beings are inherently valuable. I think us being in the image of God does not mean that I am a photocopy of God. We have to think about the way that the ancient world viewed what it meant to be an image of God. And it's sort of something that we can all grasp. Like, to make it super, super basic, the gods are up in heaven, and obviously they got important shit to do than to worry about us down on the earth. But they still want to rule the earth. So what they'll do is they'll choose a specific person, obviously a man, and then they'll say, treat that guy as if I was there. Right? So the gods are up in the heavens, right? But they're still going to rule the earth, but they're not going to come down to the earth because that would be a demotion. So what they do is they put a vice regent, a person who stands in the place of, and they say, that guy is my image. So treat him as if it was me. And that's where, in the ancient world, you could have one guy rule an entire nation of people, because they were convinced that that one guy was the image of God on the earth, and as such, you had to revere him, you had to watch how you spoke to him, etc., etc. And Moses said, that's a good idea, only it's all of us who represent God on the earth. One of us is not enough to reflect God's infinite attributes, goodness, etc., etc. So there needs to be billions of us for us to grasp 0.0000001% of who God is. And so every human being I run into is showing me and teaching me something about God just by being themselves. That's literally it. You are already an image bearer of God. Just be who you are. And once I find out your personality and your idiosyncrasies, I now have a window into the God that I worship that I would not have had I not met you. So to spit on you would be spitting in the face of God in effigy. You know what happens in the Middle East when people hate Bush or whatever, and then they create like this stuffed animal, or what do you call that guy? The scarecrow. So they'll make one of those, and then they'll put Bush's face on it, and then they'll start beating it, spitting on it, setting it on fire. What they're saying is, we hate you, Bush, but we're too weak to do anything to you. So what we're going to do is we're going to desecrate your image. So when you look at a human being and you hate another human being, you spit on them, etc., you are hating God himself. And that's why when the law guy came up to Jesus and said, what's the greatest commandment? He said, love your neighbor as love the Lord your God. And then Jesus gave him a bonus and he said, the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. Why? Because your neighbor is in the image of God. So if you love God, you necessarily have to love your neighbor. And if you don't love your neighbor, then necessarily you don't love God, because your neighbor is in the image of God. Your neighbor images God in a way that has never been done before and will never happen again. So I have to love you, because there's some mystery about the God that I love that's wrapped up in you. So I want to get to know you. That's why. So, as Ace Ventura said, Jesus is the only way to the Father. You can't say that you love God and you don't love his son. That's not going to work out. So, yeah, that's why we should not be assaulting Palestinian children, man. We're dishonoring the God that made us in those people. Unfreaking real. All right, guys, this is really it. I'm gonna put it on 10 minutes, and then we're gonna be really, really done. Love God first and your neighbor. Yeah, I don't even know if it's love God first then your neighbor. I'm not sure that there's any distinction between loving God and your neighbor. Okay, so we got 10 more minutes, guys. Applejack says, I hold my charge as a journalist very heavily. I source all my reports with very strict standards. I try to stay away from mainstream, but we'll use legacy media as a backup. Yeah, and like, we got sexual assaults happening over there, and there's enough in their religion to where they could do that and not feel bad about it. There's a lot of real real shit going on that some of the stuff is just so terrible that it's hard to believe, you know? It's like our Jewish friends, when the rumors of the Holocaust started, like, people like, nah, that's crazy, because the situation was just so crazy that nobody could believe that somebody could do that to somebody. But, you know, all of us are students of history now, so we've been disabused of that, unfortunately. But this guy, Josh Paul, the guy who talked about the Palestinian 13-year-old who got raped by the Israelis, he was a senior State Department official for many years. I mean, this is a guy who, I mean, he worked at the highest levels of our foreign policy. God. Please pray for my manager. Her name is Josie. They made me work around her body and blood. She had a seizure on the ground and busted her head open on our stone floor. She is in the hospital. Holy hell. Yeah, definitely we'll pray for her for sure, man. That's crazy. Christ is King is trending hardcore right now. That is amazing. Christ is King is trending like crazy. Unbelievable. That's great. That's great. What you meant for evil turned out to good for the good, subhanAllah. All right, good. Good. Yeah, that's a terrible accident. And God is gracious. Daryl is a giant prayer warrior, and God listens to her a lot. So you got her praying for you. You don't even have to worry about it. It's over with. It's over with. We're still going to pray anyway, but she's going to close the deal, I'm sure. Do I need my tinfoil? I don't know. I don't know if you need your tinfoil, bro. What I do know is that people that were rocking the tinfoil ads were saying that Muhammad Atta was a CIA asset, blah, 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 blah. And it turns out, once you know it, he actually was a CIA asset. Who would have known? Who knew? Who knew? Maybe we're in the last day. It's kind of terrifying how Bible prophecies are unfolding. I'll no comment that one. 6 minutes, guys. 6 minutes. Any other question? Don't say I didn't warn you when I choose Brawley. Yeah, go ahead. I'll stay with Vegeta. I'm such a tinfoil hat person these days. So many conspiracies turn out to be true that I can be. Yeah, I'm right. That's what I said when I said I'm a free agent, man. I'm a free agent, bro, honestly, because y'all remember the COVID thing with the bad, it was a bad market, it was a wet market, blah, 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 blah. As a matter of fact, that was my first introduction to COVID was actually it was this video, and the guy captioned, he superimposed like selfish, ridiculous people or whatever, and he was like really angry. I was like, what the hell? And it was a video of these people eating these bats at the wet market or whatever. And I said, what's the problem? He's like, that's the reason we all have COVID, blah, blah, blah. It was this bat at this wet market, yada, yada, yada. My point is, though, that was what we were told. We were told that's what happened, and that the lag, what did John Stewart, the coronavirus lab in Wuhan, China. No, if you believe that there was a man anthropological origin of COVID, you were crazy. You were a tinfoil hat person. Blah 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 blah. We got to listen to Fauci. If you don't like Fauci, you're a conspiracy theorist, blah, blah, blah. Like, all these conspiracies, bruh. Hey, and do I think that there are still, like, kooky, weird conspiracy theories around? Sure. But you're going to have to prove to me that they're kooky and weird. I'm no longer defaulting to your conspiracy theory is wrong. And then the other thing is, you guys know when the term conspiracy theory was coined. That was when that was JFK after a month after they were trying to get the Israelis to declare themselves as an actor for a foreign government, like we saw like last hour. Then all of a sudden he got assassinated. I don't know, guys. I don't know, but those people created the term conspiracy theory. If you did not believe the grassy knoll story and the whatever, they immediately called you a conspiracy theorist and tried to marginalize you. So do what you will with that. As I said yesterday, we got a guy named Epstein who none of us believes. And you know what was crazy about the Epstein situation? The conspiracy theory happened immediately. And it was like universal simultaneously. I've never seen something like that before in my life. Have you? I remember exactly where I was when I heard the news of Epstein's death. I was in a hotel. We had just done another corn show. We stayed out pretty long because, homeboy wanted to hang out afterwards. And, we were there for a while. And I remember waking up and like everybody else, first thing I did was check my phone. And there it was. Epstein kills himself. And I said, yo, sorry, Epstein killed himself. She looked at me. What happened? I said, yeah, man, he offed himself. Really? None of us believe that shit. That's a conspiracy theory. You not holding to the party line on what happened to Epstein is also a conspiracy theory, right? Negative, no. I haven't been following the whistleblower thing. It's just so much crazy shit happening in the world. But long story short, this guy called out Boeing for their mishandling of whatever, and then he ends up dead. Like, what is happening? Later, Dwayne. People are still saying it's a QAnon conspiracy to think that there are rich people from traffic. That there are rich people trafficking kids after the Epstein stuff became public. The reaction to the Sound of Freedom was insane. Yeah, that was another one. The antipathy toward the Sound of Freedom was also very curious to me. Like, there does seem to be, with certain groups, an obsession with being around kids, and also an obsession with being around kids away from their parents. I don't know if you guys, that weirdo, what's his name? Marsh, whatever his name is. And he gets on there and again, this is another dude that's not even trying. He's not even trying. He's there, 5 o'clock shadow, all that shit. Then he puts lipstick on. We're supposed to look at him as whatever. I don't know, guys, to be honest with you. But that dude, he's a weirdo, man. He's one of those people, like, immediately you're like, this guy shouldn't be talking to kids. But here we are. As an engineer, I've been keeping an eye on the Boeing stuff just since I've got a lot more extra field in the field and can actually engage with it. I think you should be suspicious of anyone that wants to be alone with somebody else's kid, full stop. 100%. Why do you want to be alone with my kid? And these guys will start the video. Parents, get out of the way. This is just for the kids. What? Fuck you mean? Yeah, Jeffrey Marsh, yeah. Yeah. He has no problem talking to kids. And then there's that one video he shot where he's like, you will respect us. Or what? What will happen, Mr. Marsh, if I don't respect you? See how that works? Oh no. Oh no, what happened to the camera? Camera's frozen. Oh no. Why? Why did you freeze up on me? Hold on, guys. You can still hear me, right? Let me see. I'm going to turn on this camera right here. Hold on, guys.